Hey everyone, welcome to Princess of Gay. I'm Connie, and today we will be doing a first impressions review of Pokemon Scarlet. And I'm specifically saying Scarlet because it's the version I have, and I haven't seen a Let's Play of Violet yet, so I can't compare and contrast there. So this is my first impressions on the game. As of recording this, I've played probably about 10 hours or so. Which seems like a lot to play in like a weekend, but just a lot of free time and everything, and plus, getting very into the game. But it also seems like a lot for a game, but this game is massive. And I'm just going to say right off the bat, I'm not going to reveal any story spoilers or anything. I'm just going to give my first impressions based off of the bit I've played so far and my thoughts on different factors of it. So, Pokemon is one of my favorite franchises of all time, if not my favorite video game franchise of all time. And it's something that I kind of fell away from for a bit back with Gen 4. I didn't start getting back into it again until Gen 6, and I played Gen 5. But Gen 4 and 5 were so disappointing to me that I kind of lost a lot of interest. I wasn't as excited for Gen 6, but I played it, and it started getting back into the right feeling for me. But there was still a lot of issues there with those games. But Gen 7 turned things entirely around for me. Gen 7 felt like Pokemon again. It felt better than it ever was. And it made me excited to play these games again. And then Gen 8 came around. Now see, Gen 7 I only watched Let's Plays of because at the time I didn't have the console necessary to play them. But I've played Pokemon games. I know how the gameplay goes. I was more invested in the story and the characters anyway. So it wasn't really as big a deal. But when Gen 8 was coming out, it's like I wanted to get back into this. With Gen 7 restoring my excitement for the series, I wanted to get back into it. So I was able to convince my siblings and all to pool together to get me a Switch Lite, which I still have right here. To get me that along with Pokemon Shield. And they did. And I played it and I cried a lot playing it. Because it felt so good. Not only to play a game again after skipping a generation, but it felt not only just like Pokemon should, but better than it ever could be. Even better than Gen 7. I cried hard at multiple points during my playthrough of Shield, because I felt like this was the experience I had been missing for so many generations, and the reason why I didn't play Gen 7 initially. It felt right. And so, I knew that when Gen 9 eventually came out, I would be getting it, without question. And so Gen 9 was announced. Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. And I waited, and I watched the trailers, watched everything as it started to be revealed, without paying attention to any leaks or whatnot. And eventually it came to the point where I had to choose one or the other. I ended up choosing Scarlet. And so I pre-ordered the game and got it at the midnight release. The first game I ever got at a midnight release. And so I started playing it. So I'm gonna cut this up based on a few things, and we're gonna start with the obvious. Again, I'm not gonna go over major spoilers or anything here, but we're gonna start with the obvious, and that is the graphics and playability of it, because this is, I think, the most divisive thing I've seen about the games, and the thing that seems to be the biggest issue with everyone online. So, how does this game play? Ask some people, they would tell you it's almost unplayable. Ask others, and they'll tell you, oh, it plays fine. Here's the thing. There is some issues that people are facing, but not everybody's facing the same amount of issues or the same types. Which is interesting, and I wonder if it has to do with either playing it on handheld version or TV, if it makes a difference if you're playing it on a regular Switch compared to a Switch Lite, compared to a Switch OLED. I don't know, like, if different factors kind of differentiate there, but different people are having different experiences. For example, I've heard some people, and even seen clips of massive, almost game-breaking glitches. Not quite game-breaking, but ones that have caused major issues, for sure. I've also seen ones that are just ridiculous glitches, where character models will start, like, going off in weird directions and doing limb-breaking poses and shit. But then there's me and a few others I've seen online as well. And mind you, I've only seen a few of these super glitchy ones too. About the same amount. I haven't, like, looked into all of the reviews on this all, but it's just a few on each side, basically. But there's a few of us who haven't really experienced any issues. Or at least not anything that hurts anything. There are others like me who, like, okay, some of the characters in the background might be a little laggy when they're walking. Or maybe a texture will mess up for a second. A lighting thing will change very briefly, will blink into a different lighting very briefly. It's so minuscule that it doesn't even hurt the experience. And there's multiple people like me who have not experienced any, like, major issues. Just these small little things. And as someone who's played Skyrim, I can deal with shit like this. It's not a big deal for me. There are a lot of people out there who are insistent that games need to be fully polished and perfect before release, which is just not realistic. Like, there are so many great games that are just going to have glitches and bugs still. Because game companies usually have to stick to a release window. And some games will be pushed back. They will. But they can't be pushed back too long. They still have to stick to a certain time for money reasons. If they keep pushing it back, it's just going to cost more money, and sometimes they don't have that option. So, not everyone can just do shit like this. It takes a lot of work. And so there are people who are experiencing it worse than others in terms of the glitching and everything. And some people who are just fine. And I don't know how it's differentiating that. I don't know, like, what factors clue into that, but all I know is my experience with it is fine. Many other people's is fine. But there's also many who are having a lot more issues. And as for the graphics in general, it looks great. There's a lot of people who will complain about the graphics because it's not like, I don't know, Bayonetta or shit. It's like, it's Pokemon. It has a style. It doesn't need to be the best graphics. It doesn't need to look hyper realistic. In fact, it's better that it doesn't. It retains its style. It retains its visual identity. If you change that up too much and make it too realistic looking, it won't be Pokemon anymore. It looks fine. It looks great. Sword and Shield looked great. Legends Arceus looked great. All the people complaining about all this shit graphically are just never happy. And they won't be happy. And so I don't really care what they think about it, to be honest. They're allowed to have that opinion. They are. It's all subjective. They're allowed to have that opinion. But I'm allowed to share mine as well. So yeah. Let's talk about the story. Again, without giving away any notable spoilers here. So the main story as shown in the trailers is that there are 3 main stories. You are sent on this treasure hunt as part of your version school. In the case of Scarlet, it's Niranha Academy. You're sent on this treasure hunt, not to find, like, buried treasure, but to find your own treasure. To find something that you treasure. And it can be anything. But you have to discover it along the way. So, you're sent on this treasure hunt, and it starts with 3 main stories. There is the Victory Road story, which is the gym battles, the Elite Four, all of that. There is the Star Road Fall story, I think it's called, and that is Team Star, the villain team of the generation. And then there is the Herba Mystica story. I forgot exactly what it's called. Something I think related to the fact that it has Titans. But in that story, you take on giant Titan Pokemon and collect the Herba Mystica. This was all pre-release info, no spoilers. So, you can take on any of this in any order you want. There is a suggested order, though, based on your level. But you can go anywhere you want, explore as much as you want at any time. It's a freely open world, and it's massive. In the about 9 to 10 hours I've played, I've explored very little of this map. Very little. And it takes a little bit of time just to even get to the main story, just to get through the prologue portion of the game. It's a very long game so far. And I like that. I think that open world games should be very long and should be very expansive. This region, Paldea, is massive. So the story, outside of that, it starts to branch off, but again, you can take it in any order, take any of the 3 stories in any order. And I don't know, like, how they might converge in the end, how things might go with the stuff with the legendaries. All of that will come later, so I haven't experienced it yet. But I've gone through a little bit of each of the main 3 stories, and so far they're all really good. The Victory Road story with the gyms and everything is exactly what you would expect. It's going across, facing the gyms, getting the badges, all of that. Same as always. The Titan storyline is really just as simple as finding where the Titan is at, facing it, and collecting the Herba Mystica. And the final story, which centers around Team Star, is all about going to the Team Star bases. Oh, excuse me. I knew. I apologize. Going to the Team Star bases, facing off the enemies inside the Team Star Grunts, and then taking out a leader at each base. And obviously, with each storyline, you get to meet other characters and get to learn more about your rival characters and stuff. And it all kind of builds up as it goes along. And I will say that so far, the best actual story content for me personally is in the Titan storyline. I won't tell you what it is, and this is just my opinion, so other people might like one of the other storylines better. But for me, the best storyline content is in that one. Just currently. That could change because I'm not very far into the storylines at all. Let's talk about the characters. So the characters are so far really great in this generation. Maybe not as super memorable as Gen 8, because Gen 8's characters were next level memorable. But it's still early, so that could change very much. And there's some very memorable characters here, too. You have your rivals, who, again, are shown in the trailers, Nimona, Arvin, and Penny. You have other characters such as the director of the school, Director Clavel. You have the professor, which, depending on which game you got, if you have Scarlet, you have Professor Sada. If you have Violet, you have Professor Turo. You have the different gym leaders, the different team star bosses. There are other teachers as well. There are all kinds of characters that you'll meet throughout your journey. And they are very memorable. The gym leaders have great designs and are very likable. They have a lot of great personality to them. And they actually all have a connecting factor that I think is, well, maybe not new per se, but is more easily highlighted in this game. I won't tell you what that connecting factor is. But it's like they each have it in a different way. And it's not, it's, I don't think it's actually new. It just feels like it's new because it's never been this highlighted before. Again, I won't tell you what that is for spoiler reasons. But it's really neat, actually. And there's a lot of depth to these characters, too. Like, a character who might seem very basic based on pre-release trailers and stuff, that's not going to be the case. I'll tell you that right off the bat. That's not really a surprise. That's just how these games tend to go. So as for the new Pokemon, so obviously some of the new Pokemon were known beforehand, but there's a lot that weren't. And I didn't look into the leaks, so I didn't know the entire roster of Pokemon ahead of time. I didn't even know any of the evolutions for the starters. So going into this, it's like I'm discovering a lot of new ones, and there's a lot of great ones. There are some that really stand out to me. And I can already tell you there's a Paldean form especially that I'm really attached to right now. I won't say what it is, but I'm really attached to it. And there's just a lot of really great new Pokemon. So much so that I don't have enough room in my team for all of them. So I've had to switch out a couple already. But I'm very much loving the new roster. I don't know yet if I would put it on the same level as Gen 8's, because Gen 8's was really damn good. But again, I'm also very early into this. Like, there's a lot I still haven't seen. There's a lot of this region I still haven't explored, so there's a lot of other new Pokemon I still haven't discovered yet. So to be fair, it's too early to determine that. The open world aspect of this is also fantastically done. Again, you can travel anywhere at any time. There's Pokemon centers dotting the land in a new way, as you see in the trailers. There are more kiosks that are set outside. And exploration is really easy to do. You just go. And not really much impedes on that. also revealed pre-release, like Pokemon trainers won't battle you automatically just by seeing you. You actually have to go up and talk to them. But they'll have like a little notice above their heads that makes it clear that they can battle and everything. So you always know which trainers in the field are able to be battled and everything, so you can determine if you want to, and it doesn't impede on your exploration at all. There's other features that I haven't taken part in yet, such as the Terra raid battles. I have done a short bit of the Union Circle stuff with Matthew Vasquez. We played a little bit together there. And so I got a little taste of that. And yeah, there's a lot more to these games. The soundtrack is great. I will tell you one thing. You know how, like it was shown in the trailers, right? That the gym leaders will terrestrialize a Pokemon during the battle. The song that plays when that happens and basically goes until you defeat that Pokemon to the end of the battle is my favorite song in this game, without question so far. That could change, but so far it is my favorite. Like, it is so hype that it actually made me cry when I first heard it. I'm not even kidding you. In the first gym battle, when I first heard that, it legitimately made me cry because it's like, this is Pokemon. This is what I wanted. This is hype. This is exciting. This is everything I wanted this game to be. And the terrestrialization feature itself is pretty good. Like, it's not the best regional feature that we've gotten. We've had better gimmicks for sure. Like Dynamaxing, I would say, is better. But it's good, and it adds a new level to these battles. It makes things a lot more interesting. So yeah, I very much think that it's perfectly fine. But there's a lot great about this game. Too much to say here without spoiling things. But the one thing I will say, just at least in regards to one of the characters that was revealed pre-release, is that if you saw the pre-release trailers for the gym leader Iono, she is everything in this game that you saw in those trailers and more. Iono is probably my favorite gym leader that I've seen currently. I'll say that, but that doesn't tell you what other gym leaders I've seen, who they are, or anything else. So it's still spoiler-free because it's pre-release info. But she is my favorite that I've seen so far. But there's still quite a lot of gym leaders to go and quite a lot of other characters to go. But I will say, also, there's a lot of hot characters in here, and that's obviously very subjective. But for me, for my tastes, there are a lot of hot characters in this game. And it's like, I thought Gen 8 made me thirsty. I thought Gen 8, like, was full of hot characters. And it is, but it's like, then you come to this game, it's like, Jesus. But either way, I would love to hear what you think about Pokemon Scarlet and or Violet so far. I think that it's a really good experience, and I luckily haven't faced a lot of the big glitches that people seem to be, luckily. But hopefully those will get fixed. Hopefully the Pokemon Company and Nintendo will put out some patches as they are able to help fix that. So, let me know your thoughts otherwise, though. And keep it as spoiler-free as possible, because remember, I'm still playing through it, and people can play through in any order. So keep that in mind, please. And And we don't want to spoil anyone else who might not have started playing or who is still very early in the game or not. So there's that as well. But either way, let me know your thoughts, and thank you so much for tuning in. For now, I'm Connie, and I'm signing off. See y'all next time.